Thank you for joining me today for this presentation on improved university and faculty visibility, how strategic pitching and an on-campus newsroom have brought big results to a smaller university. For context purposes, Cedarville University has a student enrollment of 4,550 students. Those are undergraduate and graduate students. We are a conservative Baptist university located in rural Ohio between Dayton, Columbus, and Cincinnati, Ohio. For media history, we had a tradition of not speaking to the media on current events. I don't know why, but that was just something that we didn't do a lot of in decades past. And when I took this role as Executive Director of Public Relations about 9 years ago, I was told by colleagues that the media will not come to Cedarville or be interested in talking with our faculty for expert commentary. Neither could be further from the truth today, and we'll share more about that in a moment. Here's a snapshot of our media exposure in the last decade. I start with 2011 because that was the year before I took over this role, and Cedarville recorded 76 media interviews during the academic year. 1 year later, our first year in the job with a great team, that doubled. We went to 156 media stories, reaching 187.4 million, according to Meltwater and Cision. That was a 105% increase. We were thrilled, but we were just starting. Look down on the slide. You'll see the last 4 years are bolded. The reason why they're bold is because that is when the university opened this current facility, the campus newsroom. You'll see in 2017, we had 871 media stories for roughly a 1.2 billion reach, according to Meltwater and Cision. Last year was our best year ever, as we were able to place 1,541 news stories, whether that's a faculty expert talkback interview or just a story solely about Cedarville University. That reached 3.8 billion, according to Meltwater and Cision. So looking at these numbers, since the newsroom was launched 4 years ago, our media exposure has increased 76.9%. That's significant. Even more significant, since 2012, media exposure for the university has increased 887%. We're thrilled. We still want to continue on this trajectory, and we're thankful for what we've been able to accomplish. Cedarville University as a whole has experienced 14 consecutive record enrollments, and I predict number 15 will come in August because we're expecting a very strong class. You'll see that enrollment in 2007 was 3,064, and last year was 4,550. That will continue to grow. The impact of PR with fundraising is also noteworthy. You'll see last year that one Cedarville news story that we wrote that was published in the Dayton Business Journal, to be specific, has a direct correlation to a $1 million gift to the university. I just received confirmation of that earlier this week. Also, one Cedarville Stories podcast, which we used the facility here for some of the podcasts. One Cedarville Story podcast is directly attributed to a $100,000 gift to the university. So PR has its value. PR can play a key role, and using the media to tell our story is really, really important. Here's a snapshot of some of the media outlets that we used or were able to be on in 2021. And I want to remind you, I didn't really say this, but when we started back in 2012, we were primarily or exclusively only a Dayton media source. Media in other cities like Cincinnati or Columbus, which is just an hour away, didn't even know about us. That has changed. Look at the slide. You'll see national media, CBN. K-Love is a national radio outlet. The National Desk with Sinclair Broadcast Group. They've come on board, and we've done a lot with them. We're thrilled. And World News Group are just four of the national players that fit a niche for Cedarville. You know, they fit our need, and who we are. Others that you see on the screen, WSYX in Columbus and WHIO TV in Dayton is the #1 CBS affiliate in the country. And they're one of our big players for media stories and telling Cedarville stories. And then finally, Spectrum News 1 tells our stories statewide. So why has Cedarville's media visibility increased? I want to cite two main reasons in this presentation. First, the development of the on-campus newsroom. And by that I say, we were able to respond to the media and we were able to pursue the media. And second, our Monday morning briefing. Let me explain. The purpose of the campus newsroom when we first launched in 2017 was to create media efficiency and effectiveness. And I think we have achieved both. When we built the newsroom, we spent approximately $40,000 for equipment. This equipment that we purchased, let me get up and show you some. So we have two systems that we live stream video interviews with to the media in the nation and across the world. One is TVU, the other is LiveU. It's just a little box that sends the interview in real time. The media connect and talk with with our faculty through our IFB system. So here's an earpiece and device that each faculty person has. I have mine in my ear right now so I can hear some video. Each faculty member has their own personal plug that goes in the ear. So for sanitary purposes, they have their own piece. And then after each interview, we wipe them off, and so they're clean. We use a general wipe. All this stuff is attainable for schools of any size. Also in the facility, in this newsroom, we have great professional lights. We used counsel from the Fox affiliate in Dayton to select the lighting, and they were very gracious to come out to campus. And actually, when we were positioning them, they helped us align the lights so we had the optimal lighting for the interviews. And so they were a great resource for us. And then as you can see behind me, we have the chroma key, the green screen. And the green screen allows us to really showcase campus. It allows us to use still photography or videos to put an image of the university in the background. So we're very strategic when we use video. We want to align the kind of weather that we're currently experiencing to the interview. So if it's a cloudy or rainy day, we have some cloudy videos, images, or still pictures of more of a gloomy day. If it's a bright sunny day like what you see in this presentation, then we have, as you can see, nice video shots of that. And my earpiece keeps coming out, but I think I get it taken care of. So we're very strategic in what we show, and it's a great resource. This studio is something that you would see almost in any city. The capability, the equipment is on par with any place else that you will use. And it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. We'll talk more about that. So responding to the media. We do that through talkback, TV, and radio interviews. As you see, since the newsroom has opened 4 years ago, we have averaged 147 talkback interviews a year. Now, that number would be significantly higher if we didn't have COVID in the last year and a half. You can see COVID knocked us down significantly, but you can also see on this slide that because of COVID, we're able to use Zoom technology to do more than 600 media interviews. And so that is significant. And once we get post-COVID and the faculty are back on campus full-time, this newsroom will really continue to increase in terms of its use for media interviews. And I should say, even if someone wants to do a Zoom interview, we can do Zoom, we can do Skype through the technology here in this newsroom and still use the lights and the green screen for a better look for the interview. We also want to pursue the media. And by that, I mean we want to share the sound from interviews that take place in this facility. We record every media interview that takes place. And those responses are repackaged and sent to other media outlets for media stories with the approval of the original station. We will not send sound to media stations if the original media outlet says no. But that hasn't been the case most of the time. So we get approval from the original media outlet who's doing the initial interview. And if they say we can share it, then we do that. We distribute the sound to outside of the original media market, whether that's print, radio, or TV. So I want to protect, if I'm doing an interview with WSYX in Columbus, I want to protect them and then not share that sound with the other stations in that city. We only distribute after the original media outlet has used the interview. That's only fair to the original interviewer, media. So we wait until after it airs for the first time. Media want to be first in everything, and so we definitely honor that, and the media are very eager and willing to work with us. So we post sound within a Monday morning briefing, and I'll get more into that as we talk about the Monday morning briefing. And then last of all, the recorded clips have a tendency to generate more media requests, even for unrelated topics. I can remember sending media sound about presidential politics or politics in general to the media and getting requests maybe for that professor on the same topic, but also getting requests for a topic unrelated, maybe international terrorists or something globally as a result of that soundbite. So you never know how the sound is going to be received by the media, but I have found that I get a lot more media requests as a result of sharing this sound on that topic and unrelated topics. One more thing I want to talk about in regard to sharing the sound, and this is something that we're proposing to do this year. We want to create 5 54-second segments on current events that we will push out to the media, obviously on a daily basis, 5 times a week, Monday through Friday. And we want to talk on current events, just like we're doing now, but we want to be proactive and get this into the news cycle stream, somewhat more like a commentary. And so my hope is that there'll be some organization that will embrace this and may use this as a weekly filler for a news segment. But we're working on that. And the general topics that we're focusing in this first year are going to be in the area of politics, international relations, economics, and healthcare. And why? Because those 4 areas are some of our strongest areas with faculty expertise. So we're going to take advantage of that, and we'll use this facility, the newsroom, to make it happen. So newsroom efficiencies. Probably the biggest efficiency that I can articulate right now is that on the time that the faculty spend for doing interviews, okay? Faculty don't just get into a room and start talking. They often do some prep time. So having a newsroom on campus allows them to have more time for prep and less time for travel. And so it frees up their schedule, and they're more willing to just walk 2 buildings over or across campus to this facility, which is in our library, and do a 3-minute talkback or a 4-minute talkback interview. So it's really reduced the time the faculty spend in interviews, and it makes them more willing to participate. On the same line, it reduced our travel time to TV stations in Dayton, Columbus, and Cincinnati significantly. Obviously, COVID has played a role in that too, but we haven't traveled to a TV station in over a year, and again, largely COVID, but I see that trend continuing as we get post-COVID. down the road. Another efficiency is it allows us to repackage interviews more quickly for social media. Just because a faculty member has done a story or interview in one outlet, we want to leverage that on social media. So having this facility, we can edit, we can record, we can edit, and I can get the individual clips in a matter of minutes. And then we turn those over into social media stories, so to speak, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And actually, I really love LinkedIn, and I use LinkedIn quite a bit to push our stories into that audience. The newsroom is also a learning laboratory for our communication students. It is a great resource, and it's a competitive advantage for our communication students because they can work in here and get real-world experience for something that they're hoping to do once they graduate. So we have one person, colleague, who manages the facility, but he has several students who actually do the hands-on work on a regular basis, whether they're making sure the camera is focused and in position, they're handling the sound, they're doing the IFB with the station and the guests, like myself, and they're running the soundboard. They're doing everything. They're connecting with the TV stations to make sure everything is set to go. They do a great job, and it's a great opportunity. And we also use it for student recruitment purposes. So when we bring prospective students who are interested in communication to campus, we show them the facility and let them know that this is some place where they could actually work if they were interested. And then finally, the newsroom also is used for marketing purposes, the Cedarville Stories podcast, and special projects. So it's just not a newsroom that we're devoted to sharing commentary on current events, but we're using it for the university's advancement of student recruitment and marketing academic programs, marketing faculty in any way we can, and it's been a valuable resource. When we started this newsroom, it was primarily news interviews, but at this point, even though we use it a lot for newsroom interviews, it's probably 40% of the time is used for marketing purposes and videos for the university. Here's a look at just 4 media outlets that we've had talkback interviews recently. You see Fox Business News, we had an interview with Trish Regan when she was working there. Fox News, CTV in Canada has used the facility. We've been in contact with them. And probably one of the more fun for me is the PBS NewsHour with Judy Woodruff. That was during the Republican National Convention. That was the last night. President Trump had his big event from the White House, which was really controversial. But we were with Judy Woodruff for 4 hours plus here in this facility, and it's a great opportunity to showcase our university. Here's some other ones: Newspoint 360 and Barcelona TV, both international media facilities. CBS and NBC, we know them. Anytime we're on national news, we love it, as long as it's a good story. And then BCNN, the Black Christian News Network, is one that we've started growing with, and they've been using our faculty as resources, and then they share our story as well. So that's the campus newsroom, and at the end of the presentation, I'd love to answer any of your questions that you may have about the newsroom. But in our final minutes, I want to talk about the Monday morning briefing. This is something that we started, I'd say 4 years ago, maybe 5, and it's an opportunity to tease the media, to make it easier for the media. So what I do is I look in different news sources. So I'll use CNN, Fox News, the BBC, New York Times, and local outlets to see what are the key current event stories taking place. And then I'll connect those stories in my mind with who from Cedarville could talk on those topics. I'll put together 1 to 5 stories on an individual briefing. And in each briefing and each story, I highlight the faculty expertise, their credentials, and their availability. Our core competency with these briefings have primarily been in presidential politics, constitutional law, international and domestic terrorism, healthcare, business, and economics. I've said that before, and those are really core competencies for Cedarville University faculty. The Monday morning briefing contact information is also included in each briefing. I want the media to know who to contact, how to contact, and I also then at the bottom of the briefing, I give details about this facility so they know that this facility is available for them. I email these, at least I attempt to email these by 8:15 a.m. because I know that TV stations, probably radio stations, maybe some print, they have their morning newsroom meeting and they're going to discuss what they're going to cover. So when they're discussing what stories they're going to cover from the night before, I want to have our briefing at that table in front of them. So as they say, we're going to talk about story X, they have the briefing and say, oh, Cedarville has said that they can talk about that. So it just gives us a little advantage maybe on those other colleges, universities, or people who could serve as resources, maybe a little advantage because we are speaking into the story and giving them a great resource. I try to do, during the school year, 2 to 3 briefings a week. Now, by the name of the briefing, I say Monday morning briefing. They're not all Monday morning briefings because if I do a briefing on Wednesday or Friday, then they're a Wednesday morning briefing or a Friday morning briefing. So I change that depending on the day. And there are times that there's a mid-morning or mid-afternoon breaking story that I should probably do a briefing. So at times I'll do an afternoon briefing for a couple stories. The afternoon briefings are not as effective as the morning briefings, but they do generate exposure and opportunities for us. Cedarville's most connected media outlets as a result of the media briefings have come from media outlets in Ohio, Indiana, Florida, and Iowa. It may seem strange that stations in Florida and Iowa would be interested in our experts, but it's just the relationships that we've built because of the briefing, because of the newsroom, just because of our relationships with media that they seek our expertise. And then an area where I don't think we've done a good enough job, and it's something that I want to work on this school year, is using my database from Meltwater to pitch these briefings to the national media. I've done it occasionally, and I have to admit, at times I get small school mentality and thinking, well, the people at CBS or CNN, they're not interested in talking to someone at Cedarville University because we're only 4,000 students and we're in the middle of the cornfields in Ohio. But I need to rebuff that concept, and you need to get away from that thought as well, because what will set you apart with the media is if you have good expertise, good experts, and you're available when they need it. So work on those, and those are key things that have really helped us develop our media exposure throughout the years. The briefing results, 90% of each briefing generates a minimum of 1 to 2 media requests per briefing. That's a minimum. I've had briefings that have generated 7, 8, 9 media requests in a single day. And for a small staff like we have, the professional staff at Cedarville in PR is three people. And then we use a lot of students to help us. So it can take a lot of time, but I think it's worth it. In fact, I know it's worth it. So I encourage you to consider the Monday morning briefing. Here is what my briefing looks like. Now, this is just one story out of all the 5, so you get the idea. I identified as the Monday morning briefing. This story was about Benjamin Netanyahu being ousted from his position in Israel. I included a little narrative about the story from the BBC, and then the profile of Dr. Glenn Dewar, who is an international expert. Again, he's a citizen of the United Kingdom, Canada, and the United States, and brings a great insight into all things international. So this is what it looks like. You can tailor it any way you want. You can design it any way you want, but this works for me. Here are some media outlets as a result of the Monday morning briefing just in the last year. Probably the biggest is the Moody Radio Network. You'll see Moody, Indiana, Moody Quad Cities. The Moody, Indiana station, that's based out of Indianapolis, their reach is 2.2 million. And Quad Cities in Iowa, Illinois is 40,000. Those are nice numbers for us. And their audience are in tune with what kind of school Cedarville University is. They embrace the conservative Baptist position that we embrace as a university. But you can also see secular universities have jumped right on board with us with the briefing. WEWS in Cleveland, 78,000 plus reach whenever we get on there. And that's a new market that we've just started breaking into in the last two to 3 years. WCMH in Columbus, 68,000 is an average reach for the evening news. And WDTN here in Dayton, the NBC affiliate, with 23,000. We're thrilled with whatever size of reach we get, but we love the relationships that we're able to build through the media for the purpose of telling Cedarville stories and Cedarville expertise. So as I wind down in this presentation, I do want to show you a couple of video clips, not long clips. The first clip is with Dr. Glenn Dewar. He's the Associate Professor of International Studies, and he is talking with Mark Allen from the NBC affiliate in Dayton about an international, actually it's about the Benjamin Netanyahu ouster, and I'll play that clip right now.
Israel, of course, one of America's longest and strongest allies. What impact will this leadership change in Israel have on that U.S.-Israeli relationship?
In all likelihood, two impacts. On the one hand, Naftali Bennett is very similar politically to Benjamin Netanyahu. Many conservatives in the United States will be very pleased. He's even plausibly a little bit to the right of Netanyahu on a range of different issues.
So that was Dr. Glenn Dewar, and he does a fabulous job. I have to, besides his knowledge base, I do know the media, and they've shared this with me, they love listening to Glenn because he's solid, he's steady, and they like his British accent. So we use Glenn as often as we can. This next video clip comes from the National Desk. That's a program with Sinclair Broadcast Group. They have 70 plus stations across the country. And I work a lot with Angela Brown, the reporter, and others. But this clip is with Dr. Mark Caleb Smith. He, in my mind, is one of the leading, if not the leading, political scientists in the state of Ohio. He does in excess of 200 interviews a year. His biggest year was 5 years ago. He did 295. Couldn't quite get him to 300 for various reasons. Here's a clip with Dr. Mark Caleb Smith. This comes from the Cedarville Newsroom, so you'll see the green screen in action.
2022 shaping up to be a big year in politics. The midterm elections could shake up the balance of power in D.C. There are 36 governor's races across the country. 20 Republican seats are up for grabs, 16 Democrats. Also, the National Desk's Angela Brown joins us right now. So, Angela, what races are we keeping a close eye on right now?
Well, Jen, one hot race, of course, is the race in Georgia for the governor's office. But you may be wondering, why we were taking a look at 2022 so early. That's because some of these races are really starting to take shape. Polling is being released, and some surprising candidates are apparently emerging in states like Georgia, Michigan, and Arizona. They could have a strong shot at winning.
Incumbents usually have the edge, right? Not so fast for 2022. Cedarville University political science professor Mark Smith.
Harris has created increased scrutiny on governors in a way that incumbency might be a bit of a challenge.
Let's start in the home of the big house. Michigan's race for governor took an unexpected turn when Detroit's police chief James Craig retired. Igniting speculation, Craig will run as a Republican challenger to Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Exciting Republicans who believe Craig could cut into Whitmer's support in Detroit.
But of course, Chief Craig has done a lot in the city of Detroit to build relationships. And those relationships transcend partisan politics. So yes, a lot of folks are excited.
Along with Michigan, Democrats are defending seats in Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, states Biden won by fewer than 3 percentage points in 2020, while Republicans are playing defense in states President Biden turned blue, like Arizona and Georgia, with Georgia being the national race to watch and whether former President Donald Trump backs current Governor Brian Kemp.
You have a Republican governor who's being criticized for not being supportive enough of President Trump. Of course, the Georgia GOP has been in a lot of turmoil over the 2020 election.
A recent Remington research poll.
So I'll leave it right there. But the successes that we've experienced at Cedarville University, we attribute to really God's blessing our work. It's available to you. And I think the newsroom idea and the briefing concept are two ways that you might consider pursuing in your shop. Whether you're a big school or a small school, it's within reach. And I encourage you to look at that as a possibility. Here in this screen, you see really what the newsroom looks like. This is a picture from our first year. We didn't have this news desk that I'm sitting at right now. We just used a chair. So you can start small and build, but the results I think you'll find to be very rewarding for yourself, professionally, and for your university as well. So I want to thank you for spending time with me, and I will now turn over to a conversation with questions that you may have for me. Thanks for attending.